Hello, hello.
Hello?
Hey everyone.
Hello. We usually wait a few minutes. We see many people popping in the next couple minutes. So as they race from one Zoom room to another.
Hi. That's exactly what happened to me, but it was a Google Meet room.
That usually takes more time. Then there's the reconfiguring of which headset and which microphone it's using, you know? You're going between all the different types.
Especially when it's a Bluetooth headset. Those things are annoying to get configured.
Are we now at the beginning of the meeting or at the end, depending on the crazy schedule that nobody understands?
The beginning, Victor, you're right on
Okay.
time. We're just waiting we tend to get some people popping in the first couple of minutes. So just giving it a minute or two for people to join in. If you've got a good joke, you could kick us off.
I didn't do jokes. I'm a serious person.
Very.
Very.
If anyone that is here has something that they want to talk about that isn't on the schedule yet, go ahead, add it to the meeting notes. I'll throw those into the comment here, chat here. We don't have a massively huge schedule of stuff, and it looked like we might have a fairly quiet meeting. So we'll see what we can talk about that's useful, and we're always here for the amount of time it's useful, not for the full hour if it's not necessary. So we'll go from there. You can also open up the notes to add yourself as an attendee if you'd like. I usually sweep up behind and add people as we go as well, but thanks, Robert.
Details.
Just to be clear. Yes, Robert's helping me out. I was supposed to host the next meeting, but he is helping me out with a switcheroo. So, all right. Well, I think we should start off because I don't want to waste anyone's time for being here on time. Because otherwise, everyone starts not coming on time. It's like, oh, won't start for a few minutes anyways. So we always like to start meetings off with anyone who wants to introduce themselves and say hi to the group. Really, just a minute or so. Hello. Particularly if there's something that a reason why you want to join the group. So something that you saw we were doing that you want to get involved with, or something that you're hoping to achieve while you're with the group, just because that helps existing members find you and pull you in to things they're working on if they see a opportunity there. So would anyone like to introduce themselves on the call today? Recognize most of the faces, to be fair. Okay, so we'll move on from that. But if at any point you want to do that, just let me know, or maybe at the next call, feel free. I don't have any extra housekeeping today, housekeeping points. Robert, did you have anything that you had from a tech lead to the tag point of view? Not particularly.
Nothing concerning this working group.
Great. I will actually add in here that Josh Gavant is stepping down. So you might have noticed that we've had 4 working group leads, and that is not usual. So usually you will have 3 leads or an odd number of leads so that there's just like tiebreakers if there's any discussions on things. Josh had to step back recently for a period of time, which is when we brought Colin on, a part of when we brought Colin on as a co-lead, and is now officially stepping down from the title. So there's an issue open, just calling that out and taking care of the admin behind the scenes of removing GitHub, ownership and that kind of thing. But so if you were around when Josh was the lead, he's done amazing things leading the group from the very beginning with Robert. The two of them kind of kicked off this working group, and I'm sure we'll be back shortly, but is going to take some time away. So
Probably also worth mentioning that I'm not going to be the chair for this group for very long, since I'm starting to work more on the tag level. And since Josh has stepped down, he was also one of the chairs of the tag itself, and it seems that I'm gonna continue on to take over that role. So at some point, there are also going to be some potential availability for being tech lead in the tag itself, because we're at the moment it's me who's a tech lead in the tag on the tag level, and we have 1 trial member who hopefully will continue after the trial is done. And then if I become chair, then we only have 1 tech lead, which is not really enough. So I'm gonna make sure that everyone in this group, if you don't join the tag meetings, that you're all updated on the situation there as well, in case people are interested in doing more than just participating here.
And so, Robert, so that was actually something I was going to try and clarify with you at some point, is I think one of the patterns that we were talking about was having a tech lead from each working group be like basically that person, right? That person who goes to the tech lead or the tag level meetings and brings information back and brings information up from the working groups. Are you suggesting that you're going to still manage that relationship for this working group, or are you thinking that we should be looking for people to raise their hands for that relationship within this working group?
For now, I'm kind of just doing everything, but hopefully for not too long, because if I'm going to be doing chair work as well on a tag level, I need to prioritize a little bit when it comes to what I spend my time on. So, but as soon as that is kind of a little bit more cleared out, all the loose ends there, I'm gonna bring that into this meeting as well, just to let everyone know what's going on.
Awesome. So I guess the call out for this group at this stage is that there will be opportunities for engagement at both the working group lead level and more so at the kind of tag integration level. And with the 2 other working groups being added, so the app development and infrastructure life cycle. Thank you. Thought I had that. Infrastructure lifecycle groups that were mentioned, I think, in the last call and the last platforms working group call. I think there's a lot of opportunity to do collaborations across working groups. So there's a really great opportunity there. So if people are interested in that, give a shout out to Robert, Colin, or myself, and we will figure out how to get people involved in that. And there's obviously unofficial ways of doing that, but officially then it would have a bit more expectation around being at meetings and a bit more formality. So if that's something that you've got the time and the space to do and the interest in, like, please do shout, and we'll be figuring that out in the next kind of couple of weeks to months. Does anyone else have any housekeeping things before we go on to current ongoing work? Alrighty. So platform as a project updates. There's a few bullets under here. I don't know who from the group. I see a few of the people that I associate with this project. So don't know who wants to take the lead on sharing some updates on that.
I can take it.
Cool.
Let's see, am I muted? I'm unmuted.
No,
So we've been a little slow. Where things stand now is we're gonna this week try to make things as self-serve as possible so that everyone who's already signed up to be an interviewer with the builder script can kind of kick that off within their own network. And we're going to set up some time to also, for those interviewers who are interested or anyone in the wider community who wants to interview and has never done it, kick off like a little training session just to walk everybody through good interview hygiene and protocol stuff and kind of walk through best practices and field any questions that anybody has. We'll also be doing that through the private Slack group that we have for those who have opted in to interview. As they run into any challenges or any questions come up, the idea is that, either us or any other member of the community can field those questions on an ongoing basis. In terms of the actual interviews, so far we've only had one, the one Oliver and I did. This follow-up to that is going to be using the leadership script that we're in the process of writing now, and then creating a consumer script that we can use in the same organization. We're going to do like one full loop of each of those kind of personas. So for anybody who's interested in contributing to the leadership script, we've kicked off, we have a ticket for it. There's a PR and a link to a doc. It has kind of the outline of the script goals, what we're looking to get out of it before we get into the let's formalize it in, how we're going to get at these things that we want to find out through a series of questions. If you want to contribute to the goals level, and then if you want to contribute to the actual, interview questions, feel free to take a look. I've linked to it in the notes. I think, David, is there anything else that I'm missing?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
and we also got not necessarily the research, but we also finally got our first post of the platform mindset or a product mindset for platforms merged.
Nice. And the blog post went out before, right?
Yeah, the announcement blog post of the research went out. Looks like we got one sign up from that.
One sign up. I guess that's an open question. What can we do to publicize that a little more widely to get more eyeballs on it?
I think we can all, I mean, I need to do a little bit of marketing work, right, to get it out on LinkedIn and such. I can also mention it in the platform coffee tomorrow or Thursday. But yeah, if
we
people
have
can publish.
Yeah, but we have a Twitter account, which I'm not totally sure who has access to be fair. We have the Tag App Delivery LinkedIn group, which several of us have access to publishing something on. I think if we just get it out in those kind of channels and people can retweet, repost, whatever, re-X, I don't know what's supposed to be called now. But as soon as we get something we can put out there, we can just put it out there. I'm not sure who. I don't know, Abby. Do you have access to the X account?
I only have the LinkedIn account access, so I can help with that activity, but not X. I think we may need to talk to Leanne and whoever was talking with Josh about access stuff. As I suspect he might have it if you don't have it. And the signups is for this piece of work. So the updates right now are around a larger piece of work, an ongoing piece of work within the working group around platform as a product. So we tend to have small things happening, so like a blog post here and an event there, and then more of a long-term piece of work happening. And the platform as a product one has been our kind of big piece of work of recent, where we're trying to get a state of the world update on what the phrase platform as a product, how that's being discussed, implemented, managed in companies today, and doing that through a really kind of rigorous set of interviews and things. So these would be the interview scripts and things like that. I think we also, I'm trying to look right now and I'm not finding, we had a blog as well around platform as a product and its current, like how somebody in the group currently thinks about it. Did that blog, I don't see it published. Did that blog, is that getting published? I think that was something else that your group was.
Is that the product thinking for platforms?
Is that one in?
Because
It was
that
that,
should
but I
be
thought I
published.
saw something else as well that went into Slack.
Both the product thinking for platforms and the invitation to participate in platforms as a product research as a long one. They are both published.
They're both closed.
This
Okay.
one, I just posted it here. It looks like ours.
Awesome. Sorry, I just realized I was looking at a branch commit. So I was looking at a preview one that must have made their branch prior to that being submitted. So that makes sense. Cool. So I guess that's one question I have. Like, so first of all, great work on getting a lot of stuff ready to go for that self-service. Like we talk about self-service platforms, having our activities be self-service as well is a really good step forward. What I don't see yet is sort of an idea or expectation around how outcomes from the interviews will be managed. So like I know we only have one interview so far performed, but it might be, I don't know if we're looking to try and create content off the back of interviews that have anonymous but like valuable insights from it. And when we can start making examples of that, right? Are we gonna do that in batches? Are we doing one off? Like what's your current thinking in that space?
We didn't
I-
have data to really start doing that. And I think the initial thought I had was we need to have something ready for KubeCon, and we could, do like a lightning talk or a longer talk or something like that. And observations, right? Rather than sort of positioning, depending on how many we get. But my daughter, who recently taught statistics, not taught, learned statistics in high school, was telling me there's like minimum sample size, right?
Yeah.
And n less than that, which is a fixed number of, I don't know, it was like 10, 14 or something like that. You can't really make any judgments. So that's why I think we need to get the self-service moving so that we can have enough observations that are at all valid, right?
Yeah.
I agree with that in the sense of like trying to elevate the value of the outputs to the level of something like state of DevOps or something to that effect, right? Like you need to have the statistical value there. I think one of the things we've talked about is how platform engineering is a bit of an emerging field and like we're learning as we go. And I think there's an opportunity here to possibly entice more people and get more conversation going by doing like most interesting thing we've learned in this. Like we did one with again, we can't name people, but like
Yeah.
I don't even know who you did it with, large financial institution. And the most surprising thing that came out was this. Here's how it's applied in my own experience. And it's like more community contributions off the back of things versus it being like official and scientific.
Yeah, that's the conversation we had about like emerging insights. Not positioned
Cool.
as here definitive pattern we found, but like here's an interesting thing we can discuss that gets it more. So we talked about, I mean, this has been an ongoing conversation across all of us for,
Yeah.
I think right now we haven't thought of it too deeply because the biggest issue is just getting it out the door and building momentum. Once things start coming in, we're going to shift focus to, okay, how do we process? How do we take early insights, turn them into blogs for marketing? How do we then process the larger interview sample size into proper synthesis process in this crowdsourced kind of, well, community-driven way? We diagrammed it out. We have some preliminary thoughts on how we, make sure it's GDPR compliant and we anonymize and all that good stuff. We talked about that before. So I think all the pieces are there for once we start focusing on the second part of this.
Awesome.
But Abby, I'll note your sense of urgency about having some more outcomes that benefit the group and the community, delivered a little faster, right? Because some of the momentum should also be in our output.
I think that's so just to be like, so appreciate that. That is definitely, I'm a bit of a broken record and I'm sure y'all are quite sick of me asking every time it comes up. But let me just be clear about why I'm doing that. And it's why I'm also pushing people every time they make a sort of ranty post in either a GitHub comment or on Slack or something to be like, write a blog for our post on it. You don't need to do much more than like copy and paste this thing into a blog. Like it doesn't need to be formal. The reason I'm doing that is because what we've found over the 2 white papers we've released so far is that the conversations don't start firing up until people see the text on the page, and then they start being like, no, I disagree with this. Like, this has nothing to do with how I do my things, or I've seen this in this completely different way, or I love this. This is exactly what I see. So happy I've already shared it with my CTO, you know? And so I'm just trying to get as much of that conversation kind of snowballing as possible so that we can start those conversations up. So it is not just a prod of like, you know, do more things. It's more of a, how do we snowball the community into those conversations? And I think we can start doing that with, hopefully with, you know, content that comes out.
Where are those conversations in some
They tend
sense
to be
too?
on the Google Docs. They tend to be here, the Google Docs of the conversations, and in the Slack threads are the three places I see them most often, but they're super disparate and like hard to pull together. And that's something we might need to fix, you know, for traceability and tracking of that stuff.
Well, there's
But yeah,
two forms of conversation, and not to go, we probably need to move on, but there's like the community involved in the working group, and then there's like, how do we get the industry community, like the larger user community? We're still missing a lot of the user community, right? So, and Robert, I said I would get to you offline, and I will actually schedule something to talk about things we could do for KubeCon. Like on conference type stuff. And yep.
Yeah. Oh, we're good.
So David, so while I absolutely want to pull in more of the end user, doing that both through the CNCF end user groups as well as just wider than the CNCF, my vision for sure, my focus right now is on this working group conversation happening, because I think that this working group and the people who come in once they start seeing something more tangible to work on are the people who are going to wind up putting out some sort of a white paper around platform as a product, which is steeped in this sort of research and those kinds of things. And what I don't want to have happen, or like what will happen, is someone will come in with some big bombs dropping right at the end, being like, "Did you think about this?"
So
Like
maybe
as we're about to
something that
merge
could
it.
help for us to commit to is to have intermediate, just as we get interviews done, just instead of whole blog post, we could put it into Slack and someone could tell us that should be a blog post or something like that, right? But just to get at least the immediate community aware of like what we're finding and generate conversation that way. All right, I get that now. I thought you were looking for wider community, but yeah, we could certainly glean things from the anonymized transcript stuff and put it
I
somewhere.
think that'd be great. Just we can get to the wider community, and I don't mean to dismiss that as an important part. Like I want that to be an important part of what we do, but getting this community going is where we're going to start to refine our thinking. And this is the group that's going to be putting together potentially content that is valuable to that wider community. I have found that we have a much wider reach with the things that we publish than I think individuals often realize. I mean, David, you worked the booth a little bit at KubeCon. I know it wasn't as busy as we'd all hoped maybe, but when you start having conversations at events, whether they be local or global like KubeCon, you start to realize just how many people have seen that document, used that document, rely on it, on both the maturity model and the white paper. And so doing our due diligence internal to our group, making sure that we're putting out something that 50 plus people from all over the world, all different industries have all had their fingerprints on, is where we get that value. And so that's why I'm trying to like encourage that sort of cycling of conversation. So yeah.
Okay.
That sounds good. Cool. I mean, I wasn't moving us on because we've got time, but I think that sounds like a good update. So anybody who wants to get involved, we're going to be ready to do self-service interviews. It'd be great to get lots of people involved because that will be what drives feedback on the script. Like the script has been through lots of reviews. It's already in a really good state, but as more and more people actually use it, people will start to identify that stuff. So definitely get involved. The next thing on the list is the platform schema representation alternatives, which I've just taken a quick look at today, and looks really good. So yeah.
Just to for an update that I completed the pull request, and yes, I'm waiting for eventually to fix some problem I had a problem with the sign off of the commit at the beginning. Then I opened a pull request, I deleted the pull request, I created another one because there are, but that's it. The other part I added all new features, and yes, I think that is ready for to be published. But is I wait for the approval. Yeah. And next week I will open another topic about because if you remember well. At the beginning, I had a lot of topics inside the blog post, also the part AI, support the conversational DevX, and I will going to open another blog post about the conversational DevX and AI in platform engineering.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Has anyone else been able to give a review of that? So I did. I see you've already updated the comments that I made. The only thing I've noticed is that you update the link in one place. I can make suggestions on all the other links, but there's a few others, like including the kind of list of links at the bottom that have,
Okay.
I don't know if you looked at the preview, but they have quite long kind of pink text links rather than sort of readable hypertext. But otherwise, like in my opinion, it's technically sound to go in the sense that it looks, it renders and it has all the stuff it needs. So that was all I had time to review today, not the content. But anyone else want to vote of approval or any other questions about the blog if they've had a chance to review?
No, sorry. I thought it's for me for the questions for everybody.
No, general. I haven't had a chance to look, but I'll try and look by tomorrow and got it open.
Okay.
I wanted to go to the meeting that was scheduled originally. It just never ended up on my calendar.
I haven't had the chance to check it out, but the only thing that I'm, there's two pluses in this log that are gonna be. That's probably okay, but at the same time, yeah, but again, a minor thing. I can add something. But as soon as I've read through this, and if anyone else can comment if they have read through it, I can merge that.
The only thing I'd say reading the beginning of it is I don't get a hook of why you're going through all these different ways that platform engineering gets used.
So, sorry again, what the question is about?
So in this blog post, I'll explore platform engineering, cover its diverse interpretations. Well, it doesn't tell me why I should read this blog post.
Why you should read this blog post is not clear in the beginning, no.
So yeah, bringing it up to the top. Like if I go through it, I may find, oh, there's some thesis or something that you're, targeting, something you'd like as a takeaway, and put that up at the top.
Okay.
David just wants you to have some clickbaity sex appeal.
I hate using the
That's
term
that's
sex appeal.
just platform
But-
engineering in the title, David. That's what gets it clickbaity right there.
Listen,
But
after
yeah, I think that's what you're saying.
after spending nearly a month editing down our post to 2,000 words, like
I know, but my is an exercise. It's not. I don't want a lot of clicks. I want to create a content that is will last for the time and is starting a conversation about this topic. I think that I prefer to have few readers in that blog post, but that the readers are thinking about that and provide feedbacks, because I think that
Still,
yeah.
to get those few readers, you need to convince them to read it in the first place. Because there is no conversation without clicks.
Yeah.
It
I will
isn't.
stand up and just
you
say
could say you
one
could
thing-
take the line towards the end. You could say you're proposing platform engineering plus plus, or something like there is a reason you're writing this, and there is something you're proposing. It could just, you don't have to reference it directly, but
Yeah.
I'll make some actual suggestions rather than just bring it
Yeah,
up.
thank you. Yeah, I can add it. This is for me, it's fine. It's not a problem. And yes, so it's important from my point of view to have to start a conversation about these topics, because now there is the hype cycle of platform engineering also from Gartner side. I will speak a lot with Gartner analysts about this part. I will also open when Manju has on LinkedIn has posted a hype cycle, and they asked to him, okay, but you have 2 dots now. the platform and the portal, and the platform contains the portal, yes or no? Sometimes yes, okay, but then there is a lot of conversation on these topics that I just need to write down and what is in my mind and start the conversation. Yes, thanks for suggesting. If can will be much more easy to find that document on the web for the SEO or for having a catching keyword better. Please suggest add this on the beginning. Yes, thank you.
All right. I'll wait to see. I'll pay attention to the pull request and see how it turns out, and if people add comments and there's like unresolved stuff, I'll let it be. But if everything seems resolved, I'll just merge it whenever, Julio.
Okay.
Yeah, I will just remind like, so I think all this conversation is really good. I think everyone should make comments, but I don't want to up the barrier of entry for blog posts too high. So just as a reminder, there are things that will stop blog posts from being posted. So they are code of conduct and code of conduct for our tag and for our working group issues. So things like a vendor pitch or things that are aggressively against people in the community or things like that, and it's visible on our website. Those are the only things that will actually stop a blog from being posted. Otherwise, any comments that we make are good suggestions to the author, and you can see, most authors, as you did, thank people who've been involved in the discussion and conversation, and it makes for better content. But there is a point in place where this is an authored blog, opinionated blog, and that's okay. And other people can write their own blogs on the topics in the ways that they would like to write as well. And we would genuinely encourage that and hope to see more posts. And so that's why I will be try to encourage authors to take what they can and go forward as they feel comfortable, because I don't want people to feel like, oh, a blog post is a slog, I don't want to do it. So just
and maybe
context for people.
The thing to encourage is for people to make action. Like the first suggestion I had wasn't particularly actionable, whereas if I come up with suggested actual text, the author can accept or decline the suggestion rather than this needs to be more clickbaity, right?
No, but it's not I really appreciated all the suggestions because every point of view is important for me because it's what I are looking for. I'm looking for point of view different from mine. That's important. And that this is the starting point for creating something new in that context, in that environment. Otherwise, everybody call in the same way, something like agile in the 20s. You remember, agile is the good agile, is not good agile, is not agile. The problem are people that are implementing agile, the problem. Also, the platform engineering is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Then I really like all the suggestion and the conversation that is starting from that blog post. And I hope that in the next one about AI, I see that also CNCF had a landscape about just the part of the AI. And yeah, these are just a tool, but AI is much more than a tool. It's something that will change our way of work in the future. And is thank you.
Exactly right. And I've seen from the beginning, from when we were at the Google Doc version of this blog through till now, you've been very responsive and conversational with all these things. And I think, me personally, I hope that the call to action, if we pull anything up to the top, is about that discussion issue, because I think that that's where the magic is, right? Is where people are kind of having the back and forth rather than a one directional. So I think this has been a really great topic to pull out. I'm actually referencing it. I know we won't probably get it merged ahead of time, but I'm going to be referencing it in a talk on Thursday. So I just think it's been a really nice, you've done a great job of describing that evolution in your own mind and calling that forward for other people to contribute to. So yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right, so then the next one that we've got is the one around the risk assessment tool. So there's a Google Doc, which I'll put in the chat here, because otherwise you have to do 3 or 4 clicks to get to it, which is being proposed by Corbin from AWS and has some discussion in the document. I think we might be getting to the point where it's useful to have a call, but how I see a few people's faces here that have been involved in the conversation. I think we're missing a few people as well. How do people feel? Have people been able to take a look at this? Is this interesting to people? Is it worth a follow-up call for discussion?
Is this the follow-on from the roundtable in Paris?
This is the follow-on from the roundtable in Paris, or it's one of the kind of outcomes. Corbin was at that event. We had a bit of a discussion there. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take a look.
Yeah, cool. Don't know if anyone else is here. I think Joshua, I think I saw you were on there. I don't know if you have any, if you've been able to look at it since the beginning.
Yeah, I think
else?
several of the people have similar queries like mine, right? So we particularly are interested about the specific usage of the word risk on there. So I personally haven't seen any of the follow-up comments, so I'll try to follow up on that one. And yeah, I think that it will be great if we have a specific conversation on this one with Corbin as well.
Cool. So I think, so actionably, I can talk with Corbin. I think we as a group have said that a good pattern is to host a call at the same time as this call, just on an off week, because this is like a slot that time zone wise is hitting the people who are currently on the call. So I will touch base with Corbin and see if he can do July 2nd, which would be next week, at this time, or what would be possible. So I think he's coming in from West Coast USA. So I've definitely seen West Coasters on the call, so it can't be that stupid early, but I think it is fairly early in their day. So let me, yeah, I could take that action to do that. In the meantime, I don't know if other people have other questions, like actionable things we can do, let me know. But else, I think it might be interesting even, like we've got 23 minutes to go, and maybe 2 topics. So it'd be this or having a chat about the Gartner platform engineering hype cycle. So I don't know if people have a preference to talk through one of those or the other, or split our time between the two.
I'd be for splitting. I'd like to know more about the assessment tool.
Cool. So maybe I'll put myself on a clock here and say we'll do a shorter time on the assessment tool, because we're going to try and do that out. So at quarter till, I will halt current conversation and move off to the hype cycle conversation. But the big question here in the doc, which I'm not fully up to date on the comments either, I will full make culpa on that, is around the fact that the intention of this piece of work is to make the maturity model more repeatable and actionable for people. So the feedback we're hearing from users is that the white paper is too high level. Okay, we came out with a maturity model that gave a little bit more context as to like, okay, so that's the dream state, but like, what does that mean in action? But even from the maturity model, we're hearing people going like, how should I use this? Should it be per team? Should it be across the whole org? Is like, how do I evaluate myself without having to like comb through a 12-page paper and like read between the lines and decide for myself? And so the proposal is to create a framework by which somebody can sort of ask themselves questions to figure out where they would fit within the maturity model. So there shouldn't be any new content created particularly from this, in the sense of we're not going to write a new white paper. This is all going to be about applying the maturity model in its current form, but making it applicable to people. And one of the proposals from Corbin was to determine, based on people's answers, how at risk or not at risk they were to in regards to being successful with platform engineering. So for example, one of the examples is like, do you have a dedicated team aligned to build and maintain the platform as a primary job responsibility? And if you do, you are lower risk or no risk. And if you don't, you are at more risk towards like the effectiveness of your platform engineering effort. That context of like risk is something that I think there's a lot of conversation about. So how does that land with people? How else would people like to see the maturity model become more concrete through this? I'll let you all take it away on what's interesting to you.
Is the goal of this that companies can pick this up, do their own assessment internally, have a sense of what things look like, what kind of gaps and risks emerge as a kickoff to deeper discovery around, how things actually play out?
Being completely upfront, partly this is for consultants to do that. Look, it's an AWS sponsored activity. There is a I don't like having things be like shadowy, right? So, but yes, what the key part of what you're saying is what the goal is, which is that whoever's doing the assessment, whether it be consultants or internally, it's about a gap assessment of what do you need versus where are you. And so one of the comments I made, I think probably got lost somewhere, is around like, I really want to see this include self-assessment of what you need, not just where you are. So if you're a 20 engineer shop that is pre-product market fit, we shouldn't be giving you the same results as a, Chris Planks here, his favorite statement about how big his company is and NatWest is, right? Like, we shouldn't be giving the same assessments. And so we've talked about creating potentially creating a spider web format where you create where should you be with the spider web, and then where are you, and where have you overinvested and underinvested based on the maturity model's proposal of where you should be. So
I mean, I'm still interested, Abby, in getting more metrics. We talked about this in one of the previous sessions. More metrics about the size of organizations and the complexity that they've got, and things like, developer portals and number they've got. I think there's a lot of stuff out there at the moment is really small companies with small, simple use cases. And I had a few conversations today, hopefully having them at Finos tomorrow, really trying to understand it from a more complex organization perspective. I go back to that roundtable in Paris. Sorry, I've forgotten her name, but the lady from SAP, it'll come back to me, her name.
Ariti.
Yes, that's the one. Thanks, David. They're a much bigger org, than even us, right? And they had a completely different take. So I think it's important we capture that, because I still feel there's an awful lot of content out there that's just simple companies and simple views. And I think it does, the views change the larger you get.
I think, and this is why I want to be very kind of upfront about the sponsor of this piece of work coming from AWS, is that is actually one of their hopes, is that what they've been able to do because of their kind of breadth of impact, right? The number of organizations that have AWS in the door, right? Whether or not they're only cloud or partial or whatever, is quite high. So when they can back something like this, they can gather that kind of data and start sharing it back. They've been very clear, and I want to give them a lot of credit and support in this way, that they're not, the reason they brought this to the working group is because they could just release it themselves, but they see value in the working group creating the right thing, and they will just be one user of that thing. But just to your hopes and dreams, Chris, until we have something that we can gather that information on, and you're hearing from the platform as a product group how hard it is to get a scale of numbers of people engaging. Yeah. I think once we get something like that, if we've got a company as big as AWS, and hopefully, like, I know there's some GCP people floating around CNCF as well, we can get it across the clouds. I've got some one of the working group leads for infrastructure lifecycle is from Azure, so we can go across the cloud providers. This doesn't not need to be a single cloud provider thing, but if we as a working group are proud of the output, then we can start to shop it to people who can get us that scale of feedback, I think. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So we're at 44. So I'm just gonna say, please do jump into the doc. It's pretty like low amounts of content right now because it's early stage and because we want to try and get the right format. So this is the right time to jump in on that formatting kind of question. So exactly, Joshua, I'm glad you raised that point about risk. Like, that's the right type of thing for us to be debating right now and coming to terms with, so we can be building the right thing in detail. I will talk to Corbin about next Tuesday with fingers crossed. So everybody sort of pencil that in and keep an eye on the Slack channel. I will come back to you ASAP with if that's good to go, and I'll add it to all the calendars and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, in the meantime, for the last 15 minutes of today, there was a proposal to talk about the hype cycle that has recently come out, and it was actually even raised earlier today on this call. So I don't know who proposed that or who wants to kick us off there.
I proposed it because I saw actually there was some conversation in the Slack channel. I saw a funny, and I must say I agree, comment from David on microservices being part of that the type cycle. But I saw also quite some discussion on LinkedIn. I was curious to hear about your thoughts and your perception about this, since we are a research and working group. And of course, our angle is limited. Probably Gartner does have a higher amount of data points than we do, but still, from the conversation, etc., and also from my personal perspective, I wouldn't say my perception reflects exactly every point of that. And so I was curious to hear what your thoughts on that are. And nonetheless, I think, of course, are generalizations and abstractions, and they are based on point of view of analysts and C-suite executives coming in particular from certain regions of the world, certain industries, etc. So it has its bias behind, but I believe is still something to work with.
Okay, I'll chime in. I think that Gartner is a bit of push and pull on the marketplace, and they have a huge amount of impact because of who they have sway with, which is usually, you know, more senior executives in organizations, and therefore they can have a fairly damaging effect in terms of pushing people into trends as opposed to utility, right? And like especially suspicious when they have microservices where they are. Like, why are we still on the path to, you know, productivity with microservices? Shouldn't they be there already? Why, you know, why is it even where it is on the map? And that leads me to be suspect about the whole thing. But, you know, the analysts tend to target decision makers because they're the ones who can afford. Gartner is very expensive to use as a customer, and having access to that. And so therefore it's people who can pay for it are usually very influential people within organizations who tend to be very disconnected from how things actually get done in those organizations. So, you know, AI is another, you know, thing where executives have been sold on it so thoroughly that they believe they're going to replace their workforces within a couple of years. It's like believing Elon Musk that there'll be a self-driving car next year for the last 10 years. So, you know, that's the danger I see of places like Gartner being much more definitive about, you know, what platform engineering is and how it's going to play out along a whole hype cycle, when, you know, where they place microservices kind of calls into doubt their ability to make claims like that and timelines and things. It is useful how they've staged out timing, because I don't think that's something we think about that would be good from our maturity model perspective, is like, how long before we see the industry moving generally into this level of, you know, productivity with platform engineering and such. And so I think that's valuable. I don't know that where they place things is accurate or anything like that, but I also find it weird that it's segmented the way it is and how much striation there is within the whole topic, and therefore how to figure out like where this hype cycle actually is, and is it that broken out in terms of the utility of platforms, or is it just easier for them to segment down the marketplace, which is, again, you know, not necessarily totally useful to our ends of making people more productive.
Yeah, Robert, I think you might have your hand next. I think that's the order.
Yeah, I agree with a lot you said, David. I think for some of these topics, just the way that Gartner does their stuff, it kind of doesn't reflect in a proper fashion. I find it really weird. Some of these things are really weirdly placed, like microservices that have been brought up a couple of times, and just cloud native architecture, which has been relatively stable as a topic for a while now, and stuff like GitOps, where's that? It doesn't reflect what I see and what the people that I talk to, would, place it. At the same time, I think it's a hype cycle of platform engineering. I have no clue what that means. These are just like random tools that kind of are platform engineering because it is CloudOps, which is DevOps, which is like, it doesn't seem like a real thing to me, if that makes sense. I don't think we needed this at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
If it was a more specific topic with more specific points that they could place on this chart of them, that would be more beneficial. There are Gartner things that are actually beneficial and can be used, that I've used when I'm out at clients, and it makes sense, on that, for that topic. But platform engineering, this doesn't really bring anything to the table. I don't see this as platform engineering at all, to be honest. It's just, there are things that we do that is part of what we do as platform engineers, but it's not really platform engineering. It's just a bunch of tools, a bunch of categories of various things, and just shove it in there.
But what
for
is
that.
platform engineering, Robert? Chris, can
Well,
you
we
answer that
have
question?
we have like white papers and stuff.
So I'll give you my opinion, Abby, on it. I don't care about the Gartner hype cycle because I'll lower my hand now. It's their point in time view of a journey. You would have had to have started it when they said it was a thing to have reached that point of plateau. And it's just like, you know what? Yeah, fine. As David said, you pay a lot of money for these opinions. It's pitched at C-levels, who sometimes you might not want to even give them crayons, right? Let alone any actual real power. Throw it in the bin, really. It's not part of our journey. I'm not interested in what Gartner say about it. When you start a journey, right, you might get bogged down, you might slow down, maybe things happen on your journey, right? That doesn't mean you've hit a trough of disillusionment and it's overhyped. Far from it. It just means you've got problems that you've got to deal with. So, yeah, hey, it's a nice graphic, right? And I get the sentiment behind it, but don't buy into it, I'm afraid. Never have. I've seen these, a bit like what Robert just says, we've seen these in the past, right? And at the end of the day, they were the ones that were saying, do this at a point in time. And now they're saying, oh, it's overhyped. No, I don't think it is overhyped. But one analyst's view out of many people.
Nice. Saeem, I think you also have your hand raised?
Abby, can you hear me?
Yep, you're all good.
Thanks. So I think for me, I think the Gartner is a big firm. A lot of the work they have done, they have some big customers, and then they have some community behind it as well. So I think if I look at from the end user perspective, who just wanted to understand what the platform engineering is, they have to invest some time in it as well. I think what the fear I feel from a lot of the organization, the platform engineering, is that a lot of the vocabulary is kind of intermixed. Like same vocabulary is for the tool, the same vocabulary is for the framework, and same vocabulary is for the CTOs. So when you write, let's say, the hype cycle or any white paper stuff into it, so when the people reading in it, they start reading the content out of it. It start with the tooling, it's end up with the framework, and it's conclude with what the CTO, that the CFOs have to do to invest this in. So I think it's very tough. So if you look at the naive perspective, who are really new into the platform engineering, this confused them a lot. I talked to MoneyGram, I think last week, and they ask the same question. Like we see a lot of the customers, even our internal employees, feel are really challenges in particularly with the vocabulary of the platform engineering. It mixed some of the already existing content in the vocabulary, then it extended those vocabulary into the new personas. So what you have been using in the past, you have seen the same terminology in the platform engineering, but has new meaning into it. So it's really, if you look at the beginner's perspective, sometime for them it's difficult to consume what the information was. But for the writing perspective, let's look at from the Gartner perspective, or look at our own platform engineering white paper perspective. We use the same vocabulary to construct some of the laying foundation into it, because we see the market already has some understanding to these construct. But what are happening, it's really difficult to break down what the content is it for. Is it we're talking about the tool? Is it we're talking about the skills that tool needed to implement within the organization? Is it we're talking about the organizational overall culture to shift those things up? So there are so many mixed pieces in it. I think some of the stuff we can say, I can see a 50% of the work they have done can have value in it. But as David and as Robert and the Chris said, a lot of the stuff we already knew about it. When you look at the hype cycle, people think, oh, it's nothing. It's just the same CNCF landscape. And it's telling us in a different position. Like you look at the service mesh, look at the containerized modularization, you look at the IDP and IDP, Internet Developer Platform, the portal. So for the beginner perspective, there are still, I see a lot of the confusion in it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think to the point that maybe Robert gave, someone gave around like, what is this? Like, what is it supposed to be covering? What is it? You know, it feels quite, or maybe it was David in the first comment, like, what is this supposed to be covering? It's just a bunch of technologies on a curve. And it's like, and I made the facetious comment of like, what is platform engineering? And I think that is the interesting part of why I'm really excited by the blog post by Julio, because I think that this focus on technologies is like a detriment to the long-term staying power of something like platform engineering. So to to Chris's point, or David's point in the chat here, that things will drop off and not be worth the hype. So they will never get to plateau or slope of enlightenment and plateau of productivity. They just will stop at the hype cycle and be dead. I think platform engineering, if it continues to be thought of as a technology implementation, will struggle to get through to productivity, because tech will come and go, and it will always feel like there's something else that's hyping about it, and it's never really quite coming through. But if the engineering aspect of platform engineering, the building a platform as a product, things like that, is where our focus goes, I think we're already seeing, to Chris's point, plenty of early adopters well past the peak of inflated expectations and well into seeing value there, and not quite lined up with this cycle. But yeah, I think there's some good chat going on in the chat here. Who else wants to say something on the voice?
Oh,
I
sorry, just go ahead.
I was saying a 61-page document, right? I can spend my time reading that 61-page doc and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it, or I can spend my time actually doing productive. That's more important to me, but better planned out. Just rather than, Gartner have published it and now we need to react for a C-level. That's
and that is the thing where if you don't get anything actionable out of it besides the X number of pages that you need to pay for, it's not very useful, is it? Like, and I just don't know what one is supposed to use this hype cycle thing for, especially in this context, because it just seems like they unless I read the documentation behind the dots they put on this curve thing, I don't know what they have been researching. I just know they put stuff on a curve. I don't know the reasoning behind it. I don't know why we feel that things needs to be, and we don't. So it's not really useful.
We'd only use it if we were doing a purchase, right? you know, you might if you're going to spend a lot of money, you might go out and you might look at the Gartner view on that before you make the purchase. That's about the only time you kind of do that. Or you're making a major strategy decision. But once you've made that decision, you tend not to go back on it, right? When you're committed to actually delivering it.
But Gartner themselves have other things that are more useful to kind of do that type of research. And when they do like a hype cycle chart based on something so broad as platform engineering, and then just putting a bunch of random stuff on it is not really useful. I feel it's just a diagram.
Nick, I think we're right on
sorry,
we're right on time here. So why don't you take us home with a final comment about all this?
No, I was skeptic in the first place, so that was I put the issue in the GitHub. But yeah, wanting to see some positive. So I mean, it's still a research made by professionals with quite some experience and a lot of information. So I believe my question was, in those 61 pages of research, is there something we can leverage? Is there something helpful for us, etc.? And if I might see some positive points, for example, an angle I have been seeing consistently in Gartner researchers over this topic in the last 2 years is something that, okay, for us is pretty obvious, that is the platform as a product approach, but they've been pushing a lot on this topic. Evidently for the market, it's still not so obvious, I believe. Hence, we're doing a research on this and a paper on this. So, I mean, maybe it's a mix.
That's a great point. Seeing product-centric delivery model being on the slope of enlightenment just backs the value of pushing this stuff, right? And sure, it's maybe sort of done by analysts in a sort of box that maybe isn't as affected by the real world, but this is only going to add more people's eyes on the piece of work that we're working towards, right? On sharing more of where we actually are with that and where people are getting caught in this trough of challenges and all that kind of thing. Maybe I wonder if it'd be interesting, Nick, if I could work with you on this or someone else. I wonder if we could do a short blog about what to take from something like a model like this. And again, not try and turn this into, a multi-page thing, but just a short thing of models like this create challenges because X and value because Y. And what to take from this right now. We're really excited about our platform as a product work because you can see this as being highly pushed. We see there's a lot of opportunity to continue clarifying what platforms are and what they do, as well as portals, because you can see how they're in this hype cycle. And you can look at the blog by Julio as one of the examples of why we need to start thinking about this stuff. And yeah, basically just point back to some of our work as displayed on here. So cool. All right, awesome. I will be happy to, Nick, if you want to work on that, I'd be happy to do that. And if anyone else wants to, I have no problem. I don't need to work on it. I would like to see it happen. So if I can help, I would be happy to. So.
I can review as someone who is very skeptical about these types.
Perfect. And having the ability to merge is great as a reviewer. Brian and Daniel, I just saw y'all join us. I would be curious where you have reminders about this call, because we are just wrapping up our hour now. But that's a bit confusing because about 2-3 meetings ago, we moved from UTC time to UK time. So that's why we're an hour earlier now. So I just want to make sure I catch wherever you're getting those updates from, and that we make sure that they're up to date for you as well as for anyone else. So
in this circumstance, just sheer idiocy on my behalf.
Don't say that. I don't believe it.
I created, and I was there for the conversation about changing time zones, and I didn't actually get around to updating it. So just technical problems.
Okay, fair. Yeah, it's always a PEBCAC thing, right? So no, but that's great. And just a reminder to use this hour that is now all of a sudden free and back in your lap to update those invites, because we're up an hour. So Dylan, Daniel, I don't know. Is there somewhere else that we should be looking at changing for you, or is it also just calendars?
It's calendar hell. I was in meetings and just trying to catch the tail end of things as much as possible.
No worries. Indeed. So to everyone who's been on the call for the last hour, I'm just going to try and catch the people who come in the next minute or two. But I would consider the group call wrapped at this point. We have another call in 2 weeks' time. But for the people who are just joining us, we sort of have come up with a a soft idea of when a conversation really is like heating up and really valuable to have on voice. We aim to do it at the same time of day, just on an off week. So one of the conversations we want to be having is we want to be diving into this idea of a maturity model kind of assessment tool and what that might look like. And you can see in the note stock, which I will repaste here. I believe it's this one. That's sort of in conversation right now in Google Docs in chat threads, but we want to try and drive a synchronous phone call about that with Corbin, who's one of the champions of this piece of work. And I've already reached out to him. I sent him an email during this call to say, how do you feel about next Tuesday? So keep an eye on the Slack channel. We might be having a call at 4 p.m. BST, so UK time, next week about that in specific, if that's interesting to you. So fingers crossed. Dean, welcome as well. We're just, unfortunately, I don't know how much of that you caught. We're sort of at the tail end of our hour. We've shifted from UTC to UK time, so currently BST. And I'm just trying to catch up and grab where people are getting caught with the mistakes. And so far, it sounds like hand-copied calendar events are not getting kept up to date, which I unfortunately can't help with. But where did you get your reminder for today's meeting? And can we help make sure that no one else gets caught coming an hour late next time? Dean might have had an auto join on. Hello. Dean, I don't know if you're trying to say something. There's no sound coming out. Feel free to type in the chat as well. Oh, got you sound now. There it is.
Okay, sorry, I've been having problems.
No worries. That's what we're here to troubleshoot right now. So.
Yeah. So I got it from I was on the platform meeting. Was it last week or the week before? And you pointed us to a website, and I went there and I just subscribed to the website there and the Zoom invite there.
That might be Robert. That might be what Colin was saying in our chat. I think he made an update to the website, but may not have made it in the right spot, which he just realized. So I'm going to click on this and find out. So it looks like it's okay on mine. It does say UTC though. So I'm suspecting that is a bug in our current website that we are going to be fixing. So all I can say is deepest apologies. That so we're working on UK time. Yeah, Brian. UK time starting a few meetings ago. And so we're catching up some people that are getting caught with the old time frames. So our next meeting's in 2 weeks and we'll be at an hour earlier your time. If that works.
Okay, so the subscription that I have is not going to be correct
It's no good. So you can either what I can do is I can ping you on the CNCF Slack when it's updated if you'd like. So if you so I can try and find you and say hello, and then as soon as I see it updated, I'll send you the link. And then actually, you know what you can do? Actually, even better than that. GitHub CNCF tag app delivery. Because we've updated. What happened was we had, for those who care, we updated the README without updating the website accurately. So I believe that. I'm just double checking this stuff right now before I send you another thing that will send you into the wrong place, because that would be very frustrating to say the least.
It is one of the pain points of moving this meeting, which we kind of knew would happen, which is why we're
paying the price. And we're going to pay the price
Yeah.
again shortly because we're going to be switching our Zoom link to something that makes recordings easier to find and be visible. So it's only
I
going
just
to
had a look at the two links. I think the second Tuesday event link on the website is right, but the fourth Tuesday
is no
event
good.
link looks to be 5 o'clock rather than 4 o'clock. If
Is
someone
that
can
it?
confirm that,
Okay.
that'd be good.
Yeah. Let me see. So fourth Tuesday, because I keep clicking on the two. It is, you are correct. Okay. And that is where I think we had started to do an edit.
I feel like I brought that up at some point.
I do, and I think this is where Colin made the change, but he made it on the README, I believe. So what I believe will happen is if that's what I'm trying to get you the right link, basically. If I click on platforms working group within the repo and I click on fourth Tuesday, that comes up as 5. So if you use the links, Dean / everybody else, from the README and not the website, sorry, bugs, software, hashtag. If you use that link, you will get the correct times, which will be 4 o'clock, and they should be 4 o'clock BST. So that
So you're saying
at the moment, British
at the moment,
summertime.
Yeah, BT.
So you pick
So-
either the second Tuesday or the fourth Tuesday is what you're saying.
I think the fourth Tuesday link is no good for you, is what Brian just said.
Got
So
it.
the README link I gave you should allow you to add it to your calendar at the correct time. Fingers crossed.
Got it.
Yep.
And we did actually spot that about 2 hours ago in our leads chat, because the person who made the update to the website realized it hadn't been deployed to the website and realized why, and it's because we have to make it in a few other locations due to our localization of different languages, and so we did it in the wrong way. So that will be fixed for the general public shortly, but I at least have gotten you all the link that you need now, hopefully. So
Okay,
yeah.
so based on that, when is the next session?
So the next session should be in 2 weeks' time, which would be right. So yes, so on Tuesday, July 9th, and it should be at 1 hour earlier than you got on this call. So I can tell you're probably not in my same time zone, so I will not try and tell you what time in your time zone.
Yeah, I'm out of New York, so yeah, okay. I'm looking at. I clicked on a second Tuesday. I'm gonna now click on the fourth.
Fourth Tuesday. Cool. Yeah, and then the fourth Tuesday one would be again the same time of day, so an hour earlier than you joined this call, but on July 23rd would be the next one.
Okay, so let me check that, because what I did is I clicked on fourth Tuesday.
And that was a bad link. So yeah, that was
Now
the
it comes up as this CNCF WG platforms.
Yeah.
11 a.m. to 12 p.m.
11. You should have 11 a.m.
Yeah. But let me see. Okay, got
This
it.
is why I work clock on. so I'm actually able to.
Okay,
well, I
I
don't
got
know
it.
work clock. I got Saskatoon on it, so because of family in Canada. Anyway, it's part of the world. I don't know.
All right, I think I figured it out. Apologies.
Awesome. No, don't you apologize. That's on us. We had a bug in our link, and I apologize to you that you missed the call. But the big kind of takeaways are that we're going to aim to do a call hopefully next week, but soon, around the assessment framework around the maturity model. That's the big takeaway from that. And that the platform as a product work is making really great strides to try and increase the data collection by making the platform as a product like script for interviews self-service, and that should be ready imminently so that basically anybody can interview anyone in their network, right? And because our group is pretty heavily consultant and vendor oriented, we figure there's a lot of people who have the ability to kind of jump in and grab a huge number of interviews, hopefully, so, or at least a number of interviews. So those are like the two major outcomes. We also, the third one, is that we have a blog post that's going to be going live very soon. It, in my opinion, meets all the code of conduct requirements, which means that the author has the ability to basically say, I'm done taking suggestions. I'd like this published at any time. But he's super collaborative and interested in people's perspectives. So if you have a chance, there is a pull request open here. Let me get that open here that you can review in the next day or two if you have any suggestions or ideas or comments. And Julio has been really good about kind of engaging with people and getting his entire intention of writing this blog is to have conversations. So he's super keen to have people review things. So
Very good.
Those are the main takeaways, I think. That and then Gartner hype cycle is hyped. We had about a 15-minute conversation around what we could use the hype cycle for. And one of the takeaways from that is we would like to write a short blog post about both the pros and cons of content like this hype cycle, right? So saying like there's value in having this stuff published because XYZ. There's also challenges because of ABC, and just kind of get a small blog post that just sort of generates that conversation. So if either of you are interested in that, Nick from Italy is very interested in that, and he will probably take the lead. And I said that I would support him on that, but happy to pass the buck.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help. I've had a number of customers talk to me about platform engineering, some other topics there, and it's just reminding them that hype high or low doesn't mean poor value high or low. Like they're different graphs, right?
And that was the thing that I said. It's like I don't know what the use this thing for, and it also doesn't make sense. I don't see a reason why there should be a hype cycle at all. Yeah.
Well, we can talk about that on the issue when it raises. Cool.
Yep. Yeah. Or over beers. That will get stuff started.
Great. I'm going to tag you in with Nicolo, Brian, just so that you have a chance to possibly connect, because I think it's just an ideation phase right now. So rather than wait till he's written a whole thing, possibly getting involved with him earlier might make sense. So I've just done that in the Slack channel. So
fabulous.
I need to run because I have a puppy staring at me looking for a walk. He's very good at knowing he's better timekeeper than I am with a watch. So but I will no, hi poops. But it's been lovely. I apologize again about the bad link, Dean and Brian, and look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. So
no worries, folks.
And on Slack.
Have a great day. Cheers.
See y'all.
Bye.
Later.